You see this? The Legends of the Dead is a new expansion for Crusader Kings 3. I think I've clocked in over 100 hours playing this DLC. Okay, all right. I thought people loved this expansion, but it turns out the reviews are actually mixed. So Paradox are going with a new thing recently where they're trying to release 2 major DLCs for their flagship games in 1 year. And I think this is the one of 2 that they're going to release this year for Crusader Kings 3, when the next one is going to be a big one. Actually, I think there might be 3. There might be 3. Well, anyway, it's adding some features that do overhaul the game mechanics, and I think they are overall noteworthy, and I think it is a step in the right direction for the game. However, I think these features are awesome, but they have been implemented incredibly badly. That's right, shots fired. I'm curious to read some of these reviews before I start rating some of the features and changes. Another bare bones, overpriced DLC, get better, more content, interesting stories of ChatGPT as a free user. What he's saying is the legend system could have been, you could have got better legends if you used ChatGPT. Had a lot of potential that went unexplored because it seems as though Paradox don't need to make proper games, rather skeletons for modders. It's insane to think that the reason our new DLCs are getting backlash is because people think modders can do a better job. I'm not saying they can or they can't. However, it is really interesting how Paradox have made these modding tools that are so good that it overshadows their own DLCs. Isn't that insane to think about? For some reason, the court physician thinks your character is Jesus for curing people with typhus. Every single moment decision to visit some sick people pops up. If I accept and spend 200 gold plus 15 chance of getting typhus, otherwise I gain 20 stress, as my character has the trait zealous. Yeah, there's issues around plagues where the game spams you with events. I'm really blown away here by the amount of negative reviews here. It looks like initially they were positive and then they've kind of gone in a wave of negativity. Anyway, I'm not here to read reviews. I'm here to give my opinion. New game, let's hop in. Let's look at one of my games and let's talk about the new features one by one. Just a heads up. I have played the new patch and the new DLC, and I don't know the difference between what is new and what's in the DLC. And I don't really care, because at the end of the day, all I'm really focused on is the development of Crusader Kings 3 and whether I think it's going in a positive or potentially a negative direction. And that is what here we're to talk about. So we're basically going to go through the features and personally go through them and see if they are a win or if they are a straight L. Are we going to be throwing L's today? Well, we're going to find out. And here we are, the Empire of Britannia in the year 1044. William the Conqueror would be jealous. Is there even a William the Conqueror at this point? French Catholic, no Normans. Non-Norman timeline. I've heard that you guys like tier lists, so another one. So we're just going to rate some of the new features one by one, piece by piece, if they are worthy development for Crusader Kings 3, and give you my ins and outs and whether I think they are good additions to the game. Let's talk about one of the free things with the patch. So it's legitimacy. So there's this little crown in the bottom left here next to your coat of arms. And legitimacy is your right to rule. Now, this is pretty self-explanatory because it's in a lot of other Paradox games in the past. It's in EU4, and it's a simple process of if they believe, your people in your nation and people around the world, that you have the right to rule that said nation or that kingdom or that duchy, then you will have higher legitimacy. And if you have a higher than normal expected legitimacy, you get these bonuses. Can you see them right here? These ones. However, if you have a lower than expected legitimacy, you will suffer from these penalties here. Oh no. And like the normal process really is that when you go through an inheritance, you tend to have lower than normal legitimacy, and you want to prove yourself as a ruler to know you are legitimate and you are the rightful ruler of this said realm. And one of the cool features they've added, which is awesome, they're backtracking of old DLCs, is inside the royal court now you can hold a court and it gains you legitimacy for doing it. And you know what? It actually has encouraged me to hold courts, because before I used to hate holding courts. Having to deal with those events and problems with cats up trees and people arguing over a bit of money spilled on the ground. I don't really want to hear about that, but now I actually have an incentive to hold courts, even though a lot of the time I am dismissive of all people's problems and I ignore all of them. And I'm like, you know what, just give me legitimacy, prove myself as a ruler. Yes. You tend to find overall that declaring wars and winning wars will give you legitimacy, but losing wars will make you lose it. And for the most part, I like it if there were more events integrated with legitimacy options, but for the most part it's just a lot of the new features overall. Anyway, there are a few things in regards to Legends that do integrate legitimacy, but for the most part it's not integrated in all the old events, and I don't think they're probably going to go over all the old events. I don't think they will anyway. So as an example, if you've got someone who's a higher rank in your prison and you release them because you're doing something for the higher nobility of your realm and the world, you'll gain legitimacy for that. I believe it would be the opposite if you tried to execute them, because obviously you're going against the nobility. It's just an arbitrary one-off example of where legitimacy goes up or down. But for the most part, I think this is a really, really good feature they've added. It really does give you a scale of kind of like how well you are ruling your said realm. And you tend to find that when you have high legitimacy, a lot of the time you don't have issues with your realm. And it's just some issue that you get when you undergo inheritance. Or maybe you do get the issues sometimes when you conquer said large territory as well. Actually, now think about it, doesn't actually have an impact on that. Overall, you're going to gain legitimacy for conquering large amounts of land, aren't you? Overall, what do I think about legitimacy? I think it's absolutely awesome, and I feel like it should have been in the game from the very beginning. It is kind of an internal politics simulator, and you need to always prove to yourself, your realm, and the world that you are a legitimate ruler. And I feel like this kind of scaling system is exactly what the game needed. Honestly, this is perfect. My only suggestion would be is that legitimacy is something that's always ticking down, and you as a ruler, the dictator of your nation, I know, absolute ruler of your nation, the despot, needs to always prove to your realm and the world that you are a legitimate ruler. And therefore, if you're sat on your ass going to feast, for instance, maybe your legitimacy should always tick down, and you should always be trying to prove to your nation that you are worthy. So maybe there should be a scale where you're always losing legitimacy and you always need to prove to your realm that you are worthy. That would be my only suggestion. But overall, legitimacy is absolutely awesome, and it feels like it is an integrated part of Crusader Kings. It kind of does feel like it is part, and it is a mechanic, in all fairness, you can't really ignore. It's something I always come back to when it comes back to Crusader Kings mechanics. It feels like it should be an integrated part of the actual game, and it should always feel like it's a mechanic that you can't actually ignore. It can't just be a floating feature that you can just brush to one side and ignore. If there was only one suggestion I could make, is once again, I feel like it should be a ticking down mechanic, and it's something that you should always be in check of, and it should always be something that you as a legitimate ruler should always be proving yourself to your realm that you should have. But overall, as of all the features added with this new patch and expansion, legitimacy is absolutely awesome. All right, next up is another free patch feature, and it is members of your court now, you can assign jobs to them. Tasks, they're called tasks. And you can see here on the right hand side, your court physician now has many jobs he can do. So you can basically put him on no job, meaning he just sits AFK. You do pay him a small amount for his wages, and he will step in if anyone gets ill in your immediate family or yourself, and you give you the option to try and do some mythical treatments on you to cure you. But you can pay them extra per month. See, there's a cost of 0.30 there per month, where you can get more disease resistance. Or in this case, you can get more monthly lifestyle experience, which is insanely strong. This is something that's a stat that you would more difficult to get hold of, because 10% extra lifestyle experience is the equivalent of the possessed trait. So now you have the ability to gain that just by having a really qualified physician. And then finally, the final one is the ability to gain an extra piety, which is 5%. It's actually kind of low, so that's something I probably would never do. But this second one here, well, third one here, is insanely strong. Oh my god, eye-wateringly strong. Also, you've got a court poet. Once again, you can make him do his regular duties, which is basically just giving you some court prestige. They also have the ability to spread your legends, which is something we'll talk about a little bit later. And it also has the ability to just give you spread your legends as well. They're all about spreading legends. And there's also a court musician as well, which I believe these guys did exist before, by the way, which increases opinion gain when doing feasts. But you can also spread your legends locally within your nation, or spread your legends outside of your realm and spread it around the world. Amazing. And also you have a brand new role to your nation, which is the Court Chronicler, which is directly behind my head. Now you can see it now. Court Chronicler, which gives you a passive amount of prestige, which is really good. I can't argue with that. And top it off, he's all about spreading your legends as well. So this first one increases the chance of getting a legend seed. So the ability to start a brand new legend. And this second task allows you to spread your legends, and the final one allows you to spread your legends abroad. So it's kind of the same theme, really. But if you want to, you can basically have a court chronicler just sits about and gains you prestige, I suppose. But they are kind of expensive. They are on the expensive side. I also want to say as well, with this patch, they've added these little icons here for the court positions. And this gives this UI so much flavor. I like this a lot. It just brings this UI to life. And it just makes it feel just a little bit more customizable. I will say there is still an issue though. That when you dip out this menu and dip back into it, it scrolls all the way to the top again. I think this is like an engine issue for Paradox games, because it does this in Victoria 3. If I'm down to here and looking at Bodyguard, and then I click away and come back, I still want to be looking at Bodyguard. Why does it choose to scroll me all the way to the top over and over and over again? It's an infuriating mechanic. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but for me, I always look at a certain element and I want to come back to that same element. But like the fact it persistently wants to scroll to the top. Anyway, positions with tasks. The customization of this is awesome. I absolutely love this. My only request is that all of these core positions have tasks associated with them in the future, just to give them customization and give them flavor and allow you them to do things with them, other than just this guy that just sits around in court, sitting around, you know? Give me ability to do things with them, and it feels like I'm actually becoming a little bit more immersed in my court and my people who I work with. I feel that would be really cool. Overall, this is an amazing feature, and I feel like with the new features that they've added, I feel like you couldn't really go without it. However, I feel like it could go an extra step further and allow other members of my court to have other options with that as well. Why not? Why not, right? Yeah, let's go with that. Tasks with positions. I'm going to give that an A tier. Once again, it's a cool addition. It's a feature I take advantage of. And for instance, I want them to expand on it. So why not give me more of that? Give me more.
Bring out your dead.
Anyway, diseases. So diseases doesn't have a tab. Well, technically it does, but you go into here, then diseases. Yeah, you can see that on the overall map. So this is like a diseases map mode. However, the kind of easiest way to access diseases is to click on this diseases button, which basically lets you know about a plague that's nearby. So you click on it and you get kind of a plague map mode as such. And it's highlighting this local one here, the Britannic coughs. Oh no. And if you click on it, you can actually see where it is and where it's spreading to. And it also gives you a breakdown here of how minor, major, or apocalyptic a plague is. And I'll admit, when you get an apocalyptic plague, it is actually really cool. You actually feel this kind of pressure on you a little bit to kind of like, I don't know, become a hermit and kind of become more isolated. Actually, it really does. It feels really immersive. It feels really good. It's the kind of same way you feel about in Crusader Kings 2, actually, when you get a major disease. Then you get a breakdown here of, like, for instance, how severe it is. You can see how many actual player characters that have actually died, NPCs. And you can see where it's actually spreading to. Anyway, that's pretty much the outline of it, really. I think the way diseases work is actually really cool. And I think the frequency of them, I think is just about right. One of the issues I had with the early pre-release version was that I felt like minor diseases fired way too frequently. And I gave some feedback to the devs saying that they probably should scale down the minor diseases. It does look like they do fire a little less frequently. And of course you want them to fire away because you want people to enjoy the new content. But one of the issues you do find is if you've got a big realm, you've constantly got a disease warning constantly, because for instance, Britain is a hotbed for disease. Being the fact that you're all coastal as well, and there's obviously trade brings in diseases into your nation. And because of that, you have these buttons at the top of the screen here: isolate capital and enter seclusion. So diseases have a double effect. Not only do they make your characters get ill, so potentially could make them ill for them to die, but to top that off as well, they also damage development. And if you look at these regions here, the Britannic coughs, you can actually see the birds hovering, and you can see development is being damaged in these regions due to the development being damaged. But you do get an option when the disease is cleared to try and regain some of that development back that you've actually lost by spending a little bit of money. So now there's a bit of a balancing system they've added to the game where development now will decline, but then you can potentially increase it after when a disease has passed. So if you enter seclusion, you potentially can neglect some of the damage that the disease have continued development. And also so actually isolating the capital affects the development, where seclusion prevents your characters from getting hurt. That's the difference, really. So seclusion prevents death of your important characters and yourself, and isolate capital is a protection of development. And what you tend to find is that when you have a disease nearby, you get these pop-ups at the top of the screen, and I find them a little bit irritating. I'll be honest with you. Because there are decisions at the top of the screen that constantly pops up to remind you of something to happen. But if the disease is so unbelievably far away, like this one is, from my capital, which is here, it's not even a big deal to me, so I don't even care. So, I don't know. I just don't like this option being available to me when I don't even really care. So I enter isolation for my capital. And I can enter seclusion as well. I think I'm already actually in seclusion, so it won't even let me leave. You can't leave until the disease has passed. And sometimes the disease, if you've got a very large realm, can be going on forever and ever and ever, so it can be a problem. Anyway, back to my original point. This is really cool. I like that it exists. The biggest issue is I feel like this needs to be on the top of the UI. There needs to be some toggles maybe here or in the top left or something that you can basically toggle seclusion and isolate capital. You can just toggle them with a single button press in the top left. Just having to go into the menus here, into decisions, and selecting an action and fulfilling the action. And then you get another pop-up saying you've entered seclusion. It's like, well, duh, I've entered seclusion. I clicked the bloody button. So why are you telling me that again, you know? I just feel like in those circumstances, it just needs to be a UI button that's on the top of the UI and not like a decision based in that menu. I don't know, that's just a little nitpick of me. Overall, the execution of diseases and the way they work are fantastic. That's my only tiny little nitpick. And overall, it is a really cool feature because it does limit the growth of certain nations based on development hurting, and it also affects the character health. So it does even help the power creep of DLC expansions as well. So I really am behind that as well. I mean, what can I say, really? I think they've done a really good job with this one. It is very, very, very similar to how it was implemented in Crusader Kings 2. So I suppose it's a formula that there's nothing wrong with it. So if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? Oh, look at the rats. Do you know what's funny? Is that art is so small, I wasn't able to appreciate and realize it was 3 rats. It makes me really sad, the fact that they've created this really cool art, but because it's so unbelievably small, I wasn't really able to appreciate it. Anyway, this is definitely A tier. I feel like it misses the mark when it comes down to the seclusion mechanics and sometimes how frequently it reminds you there's an illness nearby, which I think is a bit annoying. Oh, there are also some kind of annoying events baked in as well where it reminds you like, oh, you're going to lose legitimacy because you're not taking a disease seriously. And there's not really a lot of time you get to react to, which I think is kind of annoying too. A tier. Anyway, the big one, the final one, which I believe is a DLC feature only. Legends, and here they are, the legend of the conquest of Navarra. Oh yeah, I've controlled Navarra here. I forgot about that. It's technically an integrated part of the Britannic Empire as well. I've yoinked it from Hispania. So, what are legends? They are modern or ancient stories that you can spread throughout your realm and overseas of your amazing deeds or your relatives' deeds. So for instance, I did a conquest of Navarra. So I got a legend seed for the conquest of Navarra. And the legend of the conquest of Navarra, the idea, the rumor, the story, the legend has been spread across Britannia and all of Northern Europe and next of Navarra too. And when it becomes of a certain size, the legend has power behind it and weight behind it, which results in said bonuses. And it's classed as a level 3 mythical legend. It starts as famed, then it goes to level 2, which is, what's level 2? Illustrious. And then it goes to finally mythical. And these are the bonuses you get for all the boundaries and counties. They get the bonus. You get station men of arms damage plus 20% plus popular opinion. All these areas get a bonus to taxes, get a bonus to piety. They become more safer to travel in those regions. Interesting. It also gives a bonus to fertility for all those specific regions as well. Here's what I love. Spreading it across the map and seeing the legend spread is mad fun. It is a really fun mechanic. Having events associated with this legend and the ability to spread it elsewhere is also really fun. However, the big stinker is the rewards for these legends are absolutely rubbish. It's like the biggest build-up to the most amazing thing of your entire life. But then when you attend and turn up, it's an overwhelming disappointment. Once again, the action of spreading your legend and upgrading it is actually insanely fun. But the end rewards are just piss poor. So let's actually give you an example here. So this is one of the generic legends. The custom of the holy site. There's basically 3 legends that are basically generic ones. There's a religious one, which is this one. Then there's a prestige one, which is this one. The legends of the blah, blah, blah. And then there's a third one. I think that gives... I'm not sure what it gives, but those are the generic ones you've always most of the time got available to you. But then, for instance, your chronicler that you can hire can actively search for new legend seeds. And depending on region you are in the world, you can get different legends. And for instance, if there's obviously the Gothic Kings here, one being spread here, the Blood of the Rod, okay? The Great Deal of the Carlings, so it's basically themed around your dynasty. There's also one happening here, another holy site one. It's kind of become a bit of a meme of the community that this holy site meme is like being spread way too often around the world. It's the same name every single time. Look, the holy site again, and then another one. That's the biggest issue that review was saying earlier. It was saying that GPT could render better names for these legends than the ones that the game gives you. Because why do we keep seeing the same name around the map? There's just a little bit of a lack of attention to detail for some of these. The 3 victories of Ear. Okay, if you go into this list here, you can actually look at who started the legend, who is the legend about, and how much progression it's actually been made. You tend to use money as the #1 currency, which is a bit strange in my opinion. Wouldn't prestige linked to fame be the #1 instigator of spreading a legend? So someone who is very pious or very religious, wouldn't the idea of using that as a currency make more sense than using money to spread an idea? It makes money like a really important resource in Crusader Kings 3, and it becomes almost like too much of an important resource because it kind of controls a lot of the mechanics of the game. And in a way, I don't really like that money is the main factor to spread legends. Anyway, let's start this legend. So it says here, to create this legend, to begin it, you have to spend money. Then there's a large maintenance cost of spreading this legend as well. And then you assign the legend on to an individual. Now you can assign it to yourself if you want, me. Oh, I realized this legend here was actually mine. I am Emperor Ear. I didn't even realize. Neo-Scottish. You can see the impact of this is when it becomes fame, there's a 50% chance that you will gain the legendary building of the Hunting Lodge. Give access to the legendary shrine. Gain access to commission a legendary artifact decision and gains you legitimacy. And then when you get it to level 2, which is basically you insert money into it to upgrade it, the way it works is the more you spread it, the more you can upgrade it, which kind of just feel a little bit like a slot machine. It's kind of weird like that. You put money into it, it spreads more, you increase the maintenance cost, you spend money to improve the cost of the legend, and then you get to cash out. It feels a little bit gamey, like you're putting money into something to get an actual reward out of it. And you also gain a base amount of legitimacy, and each level up gives you a bunch of random... each level gives you a bunch of rewards, and they're all like generic rewards. They're like ones that you get based upon the set legend status. It feels like a lot of the rewards are just so underwhelming though. Anyway, let's create this one. Let's create it. Boom. The custody of the children site. Amazing. And this is the legend that you've created. It's kind of like wrote it in a little book. So now if you go onto the map now, you can actually see the spreading of this said legend. And you also get events associated with spreading this legend as well. Have we spread it anywhere yet? Is it spreading? Oh, it's here. It's here. So you can see here, it started in this said location. It's being spread around. And what you can do is use your court chronicler to increase the legend spread chance by 40%. And if you go into your court, there's also a bunch of advisors too you can assign to increase spreading chance as well, like your court poet and your court musician. And now if you look on the map, and time spreads, you can see... Oh, I'll drop dead. Rip. What happens is when you inherit, you can claim a ownership of a legend. Like, so I'm going to claim the ownership of my father's legend. Yeah, King the Greedy. Start owning it. As you can see, as I'm progressing in the game now, I'm getting more and more and more spread of the legend. And eventually, when you get above 100 baronies, you can upgrade it to level 2, which is the 2 stars. And then I believe if you get under 400 baronies, you get it to level 3. One of the issues you find is, though, if you own an empire title of any kind, you can spread it domestically within your realm and get it to level 3 relatively straightforward within 5 to 10 years. Where if you're a small nation, like if you own a duke or you're a small count somewhere, I feel like it's a lot more difficult to spread your legend within that said region. So it's a little bit more difficult to upgrade it. Being that it's so money hungry though, if you're not really at the top of your hierarchy, is it even worthwhile? Probably not. So I'm going to show you some of the rewards that you get, which I feel like is the most disappointing part of this new expansion. So for instance, as an example, these are a bunch of the decisions you get. You can clear the grounds for a legendary building, for a legendary shrine, or a legendary statue. Legendary, I can't say it. For a legendary hunting lodge. But here's the deal. You don't get to say where you clear the grounds for it. You don't get to say that. So for the most part, most people want to build it within the capital region, because you can see how I built a legendary palace and you gain these bonuses, which is really awesome. And I suppose you want to build it within certain counts that you've got control over, and you want to control them as you move on. But once again, if I clear these grounds, I don't specifically get to say where these legendary buildings get to be built. It wants to build it in the legend of the man. We'll build it in the Isle of Man, and then build it. It costs you prestige, a significant amount of gold. It has a very high chance of spotting a legendary animal sighting, which is actually kind of cool in a way, because you very rarely see legendary animal sighting, so that's kind of cool. But the fact that you don't get to control where you build it and where you clear the grounds for it is really frustration. It's really icky. I really don't like that. Also, we have a legendary adventure. It is what it is. It's basically the same thing that the Vikings have. Instead of on a duchy level, it's on a kingdom level. So for instance, if I want to declare, let's say, I think I have to do it for a nation that's not my religion. There you go. And that's a kingdom holy one. Oh, here we go. A legendary adventure. Here it is. And you have the ability to move the entirety of your realm, empire, or whatever status you already are, and you move it to this said region. So let's do it as an example. Legendary for the Sultanate of this region. And then if you are successful, you have now moved your entirety of your realm to North Africa. There you go. North African Scottish Catholics living in a Muslim country. And the entirety of your realm has been given to a random bunch of people. They're not even my dynasty either. I have no control over that. There's a lack of customization here as well. Like, surely I should have the ability to give this to a member of my dynasty. But it's like there's been a new dynasty created in this region that we've constantly left. It just kind of feels like, oh, we've got this mechanic that you can do with the Vikings, but you do it as a duchy, which was really cool when they introduced it. Don't get me wrong. It was really cool at the time. But like, oh, let's just do that on a kingdom level, but with any nation that you want. I'm like, yeah, but you need a little bit more to it than that. The concept of moving your entire nation from this one to this one, but there's nothing else associated with it. It feels like it's such an empty mechanic. Like the reward hasn't been really fully thought about. I don't know. It feels really, really unfinished. Evangelize the realm. And this is the ability to anyone who is in your realm, you have an incredibly high chance of converting them to your religion. So is it potential that we could holy war this nation? We take all of this realm, and then we can see that they're mostly Muslims. Oh my goodness, the guy keeps dropping dead. So because the majority of it is Muslim, and then you press the decision now. Evangelize the realm. And look, loads of them have flipped to Catholic, I think. Yeah, look, a bunch of them flipped to Catholic. I suppose you would combine that with the legendary thing. You'd move here, and then you evangelize the realm, and it just converts a bunch of people. Does anyone just feel like this is just not like a fully flushed out mechanic? It just feels strange. Like you press a magic button, and a bunch of random people just decide to convert because your legend was so amazing. I don't know, man. It just feels icky to me. I don't know. I mean, I feel like the way it should actually work is when you move to this new realm, it should give it a brand new name or something and give it some customization of flavor to actually kind of make it feel like it's a new world that you've arrived in and it's somehow part of the legend and tied in to the stories of your people. But you just move here and it's got the exact same name. And also the one that just converts a bunch of people too just doesn't feel flushed out. It feels like there's no challenge to it. It's just a magic button that you press and like, boop, they just change your religion. Please, thanks. Okay. I suppose it'd be quite useful for if you ever reformed your religion, I guess. You press that button, boop, but a bunch of people are magically going to change. There's also a submission one too. So for instance, if you are a part of a greater realm, let's say you're Britannian, you've got lots of vassals they're independent. You also got a submission one. You press that and there's a high chance for them to become submit to your power and become your vassal. I suppose if you're powerful and you control the empire or the kingdom, the greater kingdom, I suppose at that point, surely you would have already submitted them anyway, I suppose. Listen, I don't want to turn this video into a big moan. However, the idea behind this and the feature and the way it works is actually really, 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 really cool. I like it a lot. Seeing your legend spread and events associated with it is actually really cool and really immersive. The only downside to it is the rewards just feel so half-baked. And they feel like they don't tie into the legend that you necessarily have gone to. As you can see here, it's a bit of a joke. Because I control an empire title here, I wanted to see as many legends I could complete in one lifetime. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I did 10 within one lifetime. Oh, actually, that's not true. Actually, I've actually lied right there because these are all Emperor Ear. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we have 2 for Bob and 4 for Chi-Chi. Don't question the names. The names are just random. I'm just face rolling my keyboard. But it does look like on average you can do one every 10, 15 years. So you can probably get 4 or 5 of them per lifetime if you have a good long reign. Oh, and also look at this as well. Look at the names of some of these legends. This is what some of the reviews were getting really annoyed by. The Custodian of the Holy Side. The Custodian of the Holy Side. Again. You see, a lot of the generic ones repeat. They don't feel very legendary when you always have one available to you. They feel like they should be rare in a way that when they appear, you should get excited and you'd be like, oh my god, I've got an actual legend seed. This is really cool. But when you've got your legend seeds clogged up with these generic freaking the Custodian of the Holy Site or the most pious life of X, it's just unbelievably lame. Once again, just to summarize, the system's great, the rewards are poop, and the names themselves aren't very immersive. Overall, to say this is the main feature, this expansion, well, you could argue the diseases are a main feature. Overall, I think this one is the most rubbish. Once again, the execution is great. Sorry, the feature itself is great. I just think the execution of it and the actual final end product is the issue. And unfortunately, Legends, which is meant to be legendary and amazing, unfortunately, in my opinion, are probably the weakest feature of this expansion. How do you feel about the new CK3 DLC and progress? Are you happy with it? Are you not so happy with it? The reviews are telling me are mixed. Is your opinion mixed or is your mind made up? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want more of this kind of content, let me know by clicking here. Have a good day, guys. See you soon. Bye-bye.